Good day, and welcome to another episode of Agent X11, Hollywood Dark Journalist. Another light in this darkened world. I am your host, Penny L.A. Shepherd, and I am Agent X11. My co-hosts are David Zublik, Heather Day, Joan Renee, Chris Montgomery, Skip Press, Tom Althouse, Jessica Garza, Edward Battalion, and Dr. Keith Adlow.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are tonight's entertainment.
Agent X11, Hollywood Dark Journalist, begins now.
And welcome to another episode of Agent X11, Hollywood Dark Journalist. My name is Penny L.A. Shepherd, and I am your host, and I am Agent X11. I am joined by Joan Renee, my co-host, and the fabulous Christi Tasker, Banana Republic News. Joan, how are you?
Outside of fender bender, followed by being pulled backwards by my dog to the ground and a trip in the ambulance, I'm pretty good.
Yeah, I'm pretty good too. Lots of things going on. Christi, how are you, my beautiful friend?
I am great. I'm at my grandmother's for Mother's Day, and I'm still here. So I'm blessed to be with her and have an 85-year-old grandmother that, by the way, at church on Sunday, she did not make it to the oldest mother there. So she's still got a lot of life to live. She has to make it to be the oldest mother there. So
that gives me faith.
Yeah, exactly. I said that's such a good thing that, when you're not the oldest person at church,
right.
That's a blessing,
David and I plan on living to be at least 140. So
yeah,
I'm going to try.
It's not that old.
So now, Christi, your Banana Republic News, how's it going?
It's going great. So Banana Republic News, we're never going to run out of news in Miami, that's for sure. So especially with the P. Diddy trial that we have going on in New York, because, what we often have to remember, and, a lot of times people, believe it or not, even after our last news release, when I broke the news that, who has jurisdiction over Star Island? Okay, so a lot of people.
Who does?
I'm just going to show you what Google says, and who Google says has a jurisdiction over Star Island belongs to the Miami Police Department. That is City of Miami, everybody. City of Miami.
Lordy.
City limits. So let me explain to everyone. There is an opportunity for cities within inside counties. Okay, so Miami-Dade County used to be called Dade County, Florida. Okay?
Yeah,
it's not Miami.
I lived in Dade County, Florida.
Correct. And all of a sudden, somebody needed to come along and confuse the rest of the world and called us Miami-Dade County. Okay.
Right.
So that causes a lot of confusion because all of Miami-Dade County is not in the city limits of Miami.
Yeah, because I used to say I was from Miami, but people would say, well, actually, you're from North Miami Beach. And I'm like, dude, that's still Miami.
Yeah, exactly. And people, yeah, they've taken Miami really far in terms of, how far people have gone. So what they did is when people were saying that, I think they saw an opportunity of going, hey, you know what? Let's just make it all Miami-Dade and we can sell more property and we can market ourselves as Miami and actually be genuine, because otherwise it's a lie on all property records and things. So if you think about like how this got started back in the day of city limits versus outside. And so in the city limits, you pay city taxes and you have city police officers. Okay, so let's talk about that. So in the city limits of Miami, we have Francis Suarez as mayor right now. Francis Suarez's father was also mayor of Miami. So it goes on this complete lineage of the same people in the same families. Like basically, if it were any other country, if it were a third world country, you would say you have a regime, not a government.
Yes.
And so it really is very much like a regime. It is run that way in the sense of the city police operate for the politicians. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. We have POLI. That, that's the root word of police is the same as the root
Police.
Yep. Politician. Yeah. And that words matter.
Wait, you know what? I'm going to stop you because I'm going to play your intro, and
Okay.
I have a video that I'd like to begin with, and I could only play a little bit of it on the Awake Nation, but it's actually TMZ salaciousness about the first trial date of Diddy, and then I'd like you after that to tell us a little bit more about why Star Island is so important. And now for Banana Republic News and Christi Tasker.
Welcome to Banana Republic News. We don't monkey around with the truth. Meet your host and creator of Banana Republic News, Christi Tasker, international investigative journalist situated in Miami. Christi covers hot topics the MSN won't touch. She covers crime, government corruption, conspiracies, and the entire political spectrum from Trump to DeSantis with the unbiased eyes of a seasoned world traveler and investigative journalist. She also covers art, fashion, food, music. She utilizes undercover methodologies and no topic goes uncovered. For Christi Tasker is a formidable, deep researcher. Many do duck and cover when they see her coming. Banana Republic News with Christi Tasker begins now.
And the flavor of Miami, I'm dancing in the background. So have you seen anything regarding what TMZ put forth regarding this was the beginning? They finished jury selection on the 12th, and then today was opening statements?
Yeah, today was openings. Well, actually, it's my understanding they actually finished the jury selection this morning, and then they've gone directly into opening statements. I could be wrong on that.
I'm not sure either, but TMZ came out with a thing. And this is something that I guess you and I are going to be covering for a while, although the Wake Nation will be going on vacation starting Friday, and then we will be returning the day after Memorial Day. So just for anybody that's listening, and then also, Christi, we're going to be playing these things back to back. So you're going to be getting more coverage. And Joan, what did you say? How many hits did the trauma triage team get?
Oh, how many views?
Yes.
15,500.
That's
Okay.
wonderful.
So that's what we're aiming for, girlfriend. So
Yeah.
let me bring in this video from TMZ. It's about 11 minutes into it, and then we can stop and start it and talk about it,
Okay.
because
Perfect.
this is like a really instrumental case regarding sex trafficking. And I know that there are also threads to Jeffrey Epstein. Christy?
Let me before you play that, Penny, one of the things I want our audience to think about is which police have the jurisdiction over this, and where were the police during these 911 calls that victims made? Where were the neighbors? Who were the neighbors? I want you to think logically about if this were next door to your home.
Right.
Well,
And
all of this
also
is going on.
in the Epstein saga, James Patterson also lived next door to him. So Star Island is pretty dang important. So I'm going to bring this in now. And get ready.
Welcome to TMZ Live. Harvey Levin here.
Charles here.
The Diddy trial is underway. There have been opening statements, and there is now testimony in the case. And the opening statements kind of predictably laid out the prosecution's case and Diddy's defense.
But what the prosecutors started with a bang, with a statement that clearly they knew would get a lot of headlines, but more importantly, get the attention of the jury, talking about details, graphic details from the freak-offs. And
we should warn the people watching this, this is going to get graphic.
Right. There's a reason that they last week kept saying that to all the prospective jurors, it will be graphic. What was said this morning by the prosecution said that Diddy hired escorts for these freak-offs, and that it wasn't just sex. There were other acts that were going on. The one they said that really got everyone's attention, they claimed that he hired escorts, on one occasion hired an escort and forced him to urinate on Cassie. And
they later on said,
and that he forced not only the escort to do this, but Cassie is the way the government lays it out.
So we talked about this in our morning meeting today, so let's just be real here. This is shades of R. Kelly.
Yes,
and
it is.
That
the reason they brought that up first.
I mean, I don't think there's any question that R. Kelly paints a picture that kind of resonated with everybody. And the prosecution came out of the gate with something that sounded similar.
They want to
Well,
show
they said
him,
that he made
they want
her
the jury to see him parallel.
urinate in her mouth.
Yes, they did.
Feeling like it was choking her.
Yes, and it's the ultimate in the humiliation ritual, and that's just one thing that they brought forth. We don't know other bodily components and fluids that were engaged with some of these things. This is just the opening, hello, just open the door.
Well, and before even opening trial, before even the case started, Diddy comes in evidently to his defense table, opens up his Bible.
Yes.
And, and listen, I hope he has come to our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. That's all I can say.
I'm going to say, I don't think so.
Yeah.
But, it's just another ruse from Diddy. I personally think he might have a Muslim connection because of his two bodyguards who then went from Michael Jackson, guarding Michael Jackson.
Right.
Him. I think that there's a Muslim connection there. And it would make sense because all of the parties are white parties. So I'm going to read a little bit from...
and there's a very strong Muslim connection in Miami not with all of the rappers. I shouldn't say all, but especially with his name's escaping me right now, but I will make sure to tell you guys before we get off. But he's very influential, especially over the Black portion of Miami. And you guys don't know who I'm talking about. I need to look up the name. I've met him.
So one of the articles that they wrote, they said, Diddy, my trial is going to be biblical. Diddy looks like he's leaning on his faith as he goes on federal trial for sex trafficking because he was reading the Holy Bible in court. The Bad Boys Records founder had a Bible at his table Monday and was reading scriptures before opening statements from the prosecutor and his defense team, according to folks in the courtroom. So I just think that that's a ruse.
Mhm.
It's a ruse for sympathy. Maybe I'm getting jaded, Christy.
Mhm. DJ Khaled is who I was thinking about, or Khalid. I don't know his.
Khalid, yes.
Yeah. I've met him in person before. I can tell you.
Is he Wiz Khaliz?
I'm sorry.
Does he go by the moniker Wiz Khaliz?
I don't know that. I do know that, he does arrive with an entourage of the Muslim Brotherhood. I was attending a Circle of Brotherhood event in Miami. Circle of Brotherhood is a Black organization, and it just so happens to be that they are Black. Okay, so the majority of the men in the group are Black, and they had, they've been known to, they basically have think of them like a YMCA in their community. Okay, so they were getting government funds. I first started to notice them when the city of Miami, first of all, gave them a check. They made a donation and then they retracted the donation. And I was like, oh, that's weird. Why would they do that? Especially after they did this big check ceremony, where they did the big check.
Right.
They wrote out the big check and they never. And so the Circle of Brotherhood, not the Muslim Brotherhood, they're two different groups. The Circle of Brotherhood is a Christian group.
Okay.
Muslim Brotherhood is Muslim. Okay.
Who did they give the check to?
They didn't give the check to the Circle of Brotherhood. And they were trying to withhold this check over them because evidently they wanted them to do more things. I don't know exactly what the.
Do you think they might be affiliated with the Boule Illuminati?
Possibly. I have not researched that, Penny. So there's a possibility. So if anybody knows this, if you've researched it, please comment below, get in touch with me on X, let me know, because that would make a lot of sense. I bet Bishop Larry Gators may know. I should probably message him and ask him.
Right.
He's done a lot of research.
I'm going to continue with the TMZ. Yep. But yeah, the Bible thing, not buying it.
Yeah.
See, that's Diddy, parallel to R. Kelly, who everyone knows is going to be in prison for almost all the rest of his life.
And so,
so if you got him convicted,
of course,
but this is a RICO case,
and that's effective.
Christy.
Yeah. They also, and I think this is going to become a really important part of this case on both sides. The prosecution painted Diddy as a violent, jealous man who could not handle any attention heaped on Cassie by any other man.
Right. And that was part of their argument around the videotape, which obviously they mentioned as well. They talk about that beating, and the government was setting up what they know that Diddy's side is going to say this was not about forcing her to stay. This was an argument about jealousy, about she thought I was, found another phone number. So the government is trying to rebut that already. Right?
Well, yeah, and the defense already came out of the gate in their opening statements addressing that. And they are saying that, A, Diddy is a violent man. They said that he has a huge anger issue.
Yes, you watched him on shows,
his temper.
Pounding the death and screaming.
Yes, they said, yes, there was domestic violence.
That's the key. That's the key. They are saying that this relationship was steeped in domestic violence. And they're alleging on both sides it was the nature of their relationship. Now, domestic violence is a crime, but it's a state crime. He's not being prosecuted
for that. That's not what he's being prosecuted for.
So that's
also reminded the jury of that.
And that's why they're raising it right now. They're saying, look, we're conceding it. There was a lot of domestic violence, they say on both sides. But if you want to target Diddy for a domestic violence
and sex
abuser, guilty as charged, it's just he's not charged here. This would have been.
And I want to ask you this, Christy. So this is taking place in New York. So it's a charge in New York. What about in Atlanta? What about in Miami? Or there'll be trials after this one?
There should be. And that's the reason I'm asking, even right now, as we're going through with this, because I've had so many City of Miami residents say, no, Star Island's in Miami Beach, City of Miami Beach. And that's where, I was trying to explain earlier that we have Miami-Dade County, and then we have all these little cities, North Miami Beach, South Miami Beach, Miami Beach. And then there's the City of Miami, where, the city side is. And, it's very confusing because, and then it's like, is that happening so that agencies themselves or departments are also confused, because I can tell you this: when you call in a noise violation, they'll say, oh, that's City of Key Biscayne, or that's this. And it's like, nobody really knows which way, like even the officers themselves, sometimes they're like, I don't know, like if I'm supposed to go or not. They're telling me to, but I can't cross over this line.
Right.
And there's the state trooper. Like, what are the state troopers doing? Okay, they're only supposed to be, doing the roads.
Do you believe, Christy, that the police are compromised and bought off by the celebs and the wealthy
Oh, I
elite?
know that they are. They've told me that they are. I have police whistleblowers that have point blank told me that there's not a single officer in the department that has not been bought off, and if so, they want them gone. They don't want them around.
So that's on the requirement for being hired then.
Right. Requirement for being hired is you must be corrupt. Shall I bring this back in again?
Sure.
State crime, it's not your job.
Right.
So they're coming out of the gate trying to diffuse what they know is coming next, which is the Cassie video.
Right.
Yeah, and look, I think that's a pretty sound strategy to basically concede on the issues that they can't really win. There was some violence. That video tells a pretty vivid story, but that's not what he's on trial for.
No,
However, I think the prosecutors have a pretty interesting case. It sounds like they're sort of kink-shaming Diddy about his private affairs, but the further you get away from the norm, where you have escorts who are saying that they were maybe ordered to urinate on Cassie, it starts to look like it can't be consensual, and that's what they want to convince the jury, is that no one wants to be urinated on. So saying these were consensual terms of a relationship gets harder to believe to a juror once you've established that he's doing things so far outside of the norm.
Yeah, and so, the defense said essentially, look, this is his lifestyle, this is his life, and that they are essentially trying to go inside Diddy's bedroom to prosecute him when they couldn't get him elsewhere. It's stunning to me that this parallels exactly what one of the lead lawyers, Mark Agnifilo, told us in our documentary, The Downfall of Diddy. I believe it was the second installment. This is what Agnifilo said, and they presented essentially this to the jury.
Let's switch our focus to the government. In my opinion, I'm just going to say it the way it is. No friend historically of the successful black man. Okay, none. And they start making this case, in my opinion, as a takedown of a successful black man. Here's a man who has made some of the most important businesses owned by a black man. Run, owned, created, founded. The vision was that of a black man. What have we done? We have reduced him, not everyone, but a large amount of our society, to being a monster. That should make us shake in our boots.
So and that's essentially what Tony Garagos said during opening, that this is that she said the government has no business in his bedroom. They have no business judging him or trying to charge him with crimes based on how he lives his life consensually in his bedroom.
Right
so there are a
Okay.
couple of...
I agree with them. Like the government has no business in anyone's bedroom.
No, but this isn't about him being in a bedroom. It's about him taking people, drugging them, raping them. It's about people who have disappeared, who, one of the main witnesses disappeared, Christy.
Yeah, no, for sure. 100%. But my question still remains is, where were the police and where were the law enforcement that were supposed to be overseeing this? Where were the law? Where are those police officers that came to the 911 calls? Why aren't we hearing on witness lists that these 911 calls? Were the 911 calls wiped off from the system? Because if that's the case, that is a federal offense for each 911 call.
Because we're not just talking about New York. We're talking about Atlanta. We're talking about Miami. We're talking about LA.
It is a federal crime to wipe off even a single call from a 911 system.
Yes, I know an individual who ran for sheriff on the premise that he wanted to be able to take over those 911 calls. That means that you can control what ambulances come. If they don't come, you can destroy the call, pretend it never happened.
Yep, exactly. And when they do that, that is a federal crime. It becomes a federal crime when they wipe off the system. And listen, I've had it done. I know that it's done. Because I've had it, my I've had someone do it against me. Let's put it that way.
So I
And so
wanted to mention that in the I believe it was the Casey video that was taken at the hotel, it is alleged that the individual who was security was given a brown paper bag with $100,000 in it to withhold that. So, how much does your average police officer make?
yeah,
100,000 would go
exactly.
pretty far, right?
Yeah. And how are a lot of them living in $1 and $2 and $3 million homes in the city of Miami? Just being firemen, police. I can tell you, my family that are firemen and police. I mean, they're not living in $1 million homes. They can. Their salaries just don't allow it, and so and their wives certainly don't carry Louis Vuitton purses and wear Louis Vuitton shoes. So that's where you also get into the world of fashion. And that's also how I know and can confirm that a lot of these things are absolutely 100% people are being paid off. And
Yeah.
because they can't hide, and the feds know these things. Listen, the feds know every single Louis Vuitton purse coming in, every single Chanel purse coming in, because a lot of those are chipped and tagged. And the boxes and the containers are certainly chipped and tagged as they leave manufacturing facilities. So, we're fooling ourselves if we think otherwise. And then there's, even if it's paid in cash, which they do, they are, the rulers of cash, which, I love the fact that we have cash and the government doesn't have to know every dollar that you spend and where they spend it on a credit card or a debit card or even your Apple Wallet or your Affirm that's owned by Walmart. I think it's very evident to the mainstream public that, maybe you should pay attention that, Walmart doesn't accept Apple Pay. They have their own form of payment, that you have to utilize, because all of that is information and data on what we are buying at every single store and every single place.
I have a question for you. The feds didn't they raid all of his homes?
Yeah, they supposedly, it's my understanding they raided LA, New York, and Miami. I don't know about, I'm sure he's got homes in other places.
Right. The Atlanta home, I think, was just kind of abandoned. But so LA, Miami, and New York, they have to have videos.
Yeah, they would have to have videos of the process themselves. So yeah, we should be asking, like, where are those videos?
Where are those videos? Just like Epstein, where are those videos? And that's the essential premise within the entertainment business as well. It's Jeffrey Epstein, Mossad, CIA, FBI premise is blackmail.
Yeah.
So you blackmail these individuals, and then, for instance, in regards to the compromising situation with Justin Bieber, it was said that a video of Justin being raped by Diddy was actually sold. So they're selling these
Yeah.
videos. Are they perhaps selling the videos so that not only can they be viewed in private, but that they can blackmail that individual as well, because now they possess the blackmail, if in fact there were no copies made of that.
And then also, who are they selling it to? Is it their own, their own owned media outlet that can control the narrative for them? Such as, I don't know about TMZ. I mean, I've done the investigation on Only in Dade to directly connect Emilio Estefan as a co-owner of Only in Dade, which is, a propaganda arm for getting information out in the, regarding the city of Miami.
Is
And
Only in Dade connected to TMZ?
Possibly. I mean, I've not found any connection to it.
I mean, I just saw I saw a post by Liz Crokin who was saying that that TMZ is probably, in league with some of these individuals.
Possibly. Yeah. I mean, I think that's something that has to be investigated, and it's too big for one investigative journalist to look at, because, it is such a tight network of people. I mean, every time I go to investigate something or an incident, it turns out to be the same group of people. So, and why aren't those people, I've said, there's a handful of people that, if the feds actually wanted to go arrest, they could, and they should, they could be charged, but why haven't they? Meanwhile, there are basic things that occur. And whenever you do talk about it, they, want to try to come after you.
This
So
is a posting on Liz Crokin, but she reposted the SIF. This is a huge amount of blackmail that our government now has possession of. As Diddy's D-Day court case progresses, nearly 200 elite individuals are handed to potential jurors who will go down with Diddy. Will he sing, or will they Epstein him? What if Diddy was working for the feds this whole time? The feds are now in possession of the Anthony Weiner laptop, Biden's laptop, all of Epstein's tapes, and now all of Diddy's tapes. Think about that. And what the Trump administration now has on every single elite and celebrity around the world. Diddy's bodyguard said there was way more than just Hollywood celebrities at Diddy's freak-offs. We know there was a picture with him with Obama, including politicians, pastors, and athletes. Our government now contains an enormous amount of blackmail tapes on some of the most powerful people in the world. We're talking about princes and kings as well. There's a few other things I wanted to point out that aren't talked about a lot. Diddy, like many others, also had an island, not as sophisticated as Epstein's or Branson's, known as Star or Love Island. Diddy is also conveniently located near shipping ports. If you understand the connection between human trafficking and shipyards and crates, this is a massive part of the transportation method of human trafficking. Another one of Diddy's main bodyguards is conveniently located right near the southern border and owns a decent portion of land. We've discussed this on other shows, Christy. There's also a mention of a shipping yard close to that property as well. Underground tunnels are another. Out of sight, out of mind means moving product when it comes to trafficking, whether it's children, drugs, or weapons. Diddy's house, where he was arrested, was also known to have underground tunnels and other uncommon hidden compartments, as do numerous amount of other celebrities. Why would you need underground tunnels when you could just walk to your neighbor's house? Diddy's own neighborhood stated that he's seen buses dropping off children at Diddy's house at odd times late at night or early in the morning, and said he goes nowhere near the property even when the basketball goes over on his property. Combine all this information with what has come out over the years, and especially with RFK Jr. and the Trump administration confirming that the Biden-Harris administration and Biden's own HHS were in fact involved in the trafficking of children. Are you starting to understand how massive this entire cabal is? How many powerful and wealthy people are involved? Think about this and everything else involved next time you say you don't understand why nothing has ever happened and they always get away with things. Why would they investigate or arrest themselves? They operated for decades completely unchecked until now, until Trump and others stepped up. This is way bigger than you could ever imagine.
yeah.
On that point, if you've got people that are compromised in the police, in the judicial system, in the political system, and you've got Diddy out there, and then you have another faction in all of those that are fighting to uncover this. The war really is not necessarily the courtroom. The war is right in the departments, because they're going to know pretty quickly who's compromised and who isn't, depending on how they behave towards this case, wouldn't you think?
You would think so. And you would also think, Joan, that you would arrest them all at the same time so that they could not go in and collude with each other to even utilize their blackmail against each other.
Is Star Island near shipping containers?
It's directly across from the shipping port, directly across from the port of Miami. Star Island is directly across from the port of Miami. When I say directly across, there is nothing any closer than Fisher Island, where Oprah Winfrey lives, and Star Island, where P. Diddy lives.
And you could bring a lot of things in there.
Absolutely. They
Drugs,
all have
children.
Basically all have their own docks and basically operate, let's just call it, like, it's not a marina, but a lot of times they have multiple boats at their homes on Star Island.
When I started writing Bradford and Valentine, I researched Gisraldo, I don't know how you say her name, Gisraldo Blanco. Okay, she was the Escobar's lover at one point and business partner. And I was writing that they were bringing in people, human trafficking people, on the ships located on the docks within these homes. So, and also you have like inlets, like when I was in Fort Lauderdale living with my first agent, Darrell, We lived off the intercoastal, and one day he comes home in a cigarette.
Yeah. Cigarette boat.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Which
we
is
lived
very
in a very
expensive.
modest apartment, and I'm like, what is that? I didn't know. Basically, I was 17.
Yeah.
So the cigarettes, as you well know, were used for drug trafficking, for picking up what they called square grouper, which were marijuana bales or other drug operations. They would tell them where it was located, and then they would use a fast, or what they would call to go boat, to retrieve these drugs in Miami. And that comes straight from the Miami Vice movie also.
Yep. Exactly. And what they do is they do cigarette boat racing, so they run these racing groups. And then what they've done is too, with the cigarette boat racing, that's also what the cocaine cowboys did. So anytime they've caught, let's say they've caught like the cocaine cowboys, well, they're basically, the government's going to come out with something else, whether those people were working for them, whether it's the 2017 loan crisis. I mean, I can tell you the sharks are back at work, 20 years later. They were told to go undercover. They were told to come back, and they're literally working where? In Central Florida. And
You know what? I
nobody's
was
asking any
very
questions.
surprised to see that in Vero Beach, there's still these huge packages of drugs washing up on the shore. What they each? It's like, okay, well, drop it off at Diddy's home, but drop it off at this beach. It'll wash up, and they'll go get it.
Yeah, and Megan has said that that it is her belief that the fishermen actually go out, and this is Megan Walsh that I'm speaking about, John Walsh's daughter, that the fishermen actually go out, get the cocaine. She says it's basically moved from Miami to Vero Beach, and it is the landscapers themselves who come in to pick up the drugs. And anytime there's a new landscape company that starts, let's just say you're a genuine landscape company, they actually try to run those people out of town so that the drug pickup landscape company can actually have some business, so that the public doesn't begin to notice that, hey, where are you getting your big house, Mr. Drug Landscape Company picker-upper?
Quicker picker upper.
Yeah, no, I'm serious. I mean, you think about it, like, that's what's happening, because you can only buy so much. Even in the movie Cocaine Cowboys, they said, they wish they had really not bought so much, but it gets to a point where you can only have so much money. And then what are you going to do with it?
Yes,
bills
in
are
the Bad
paid.
Boys movies too, in which the individual who had a house in Miami, and he had all this money stored in an attic area, and the rats were eating it.
Yeah. So I mean, you've only got so much, and what are they going to do? Take out every strip? I mean, there's strips in your cash where the government can basically track every bit of it, most likely from the air, from satellites, and everywhere else. So even though we might think we're actually carrying around paper money that the government doesn't know about, I mean, yeah, they probably have already tracked it to us between
So
our
what's
phones
going
and
to happen, Christy, after this trial? Let's just say, because there are some allegations. What I was looking for was, I saw there were allegations that he might be getting off in this trial.
Well, I think I was going to say, my prediction, if you want to know my prediction right now, today, unless there is a mass arrest of celebrities surrounding him, P. Diddy will get off. He is nothing more than a distraction that the government is utilizing in claiming that they have a case against him. They will go very light on him. A lot of the evidence will be struck down.
But then what happens, Christy? Does he then get indicted in Miami? Does he then get indicted?
No, I don't think he'll be indicted
LA?
anywhere, Penny. I don't think he'll be indicted anywhere.
Well, the thing is that what they're going through in the courts now, because right now this Cassandra Ventura, it's all about her and their relationship right now. But the domestic violence is, like you said, is not a federal offense. And so they're spending so much time on this that's not even what they're on trial for.
No, it's just trying to establish character. But what's happening with all of the videos that this guy has, that the feds now have?
Well, my
Yeah, and
understanding.
why didn't Miami go ahead and charge him, or whoever, wherever he was in the hotel, wherever he and Cassie were? Why didn't they go ahead and charge him with domestic violence? You know,
Yes.
so that should be a question we should all be asking. That case could have been tried first, so that he could be a prosecuted man in
Yes,
that case.
indeed. This case is so much larger than simply a domestic violence case. We're talking
Mhm.
about a man who drugged and raped over the process of 30 years. We don't even know how many. We don't know how many people actually died. Jaguar Wright showed up today,
Mhm.
and Jaguar Wright has been saying that he's responsible, downright responsible for murders. Her son died,
Mhm.
and she tried to warn him about the business, and she's still talking out. And
Mhm.
she's talked about the people that she believes that he has actually murdered, and she knows. She worked with him for quite some time, and somebody right after she was on Pierce Morgan, Pierce tried to discredit her, and the individual that he brought on right after said, "Oh, well, she hasn't even had a hit in 20 years." Really? I wonder why. Because she removed herself from the Hollywood environment.
Yep. And I'm going to
She
share a
actually
tab
got
with
she
you.
actually got an award for freedom from General Flynn.
Yep, it's Jaguar Wright. He and General Flynn specifically wrote on his Twitter account or X account. Jaguar Wright is an amazing woman of courage and conviction. At Amera Future was supremely honored to recently present her a Defender of Freedom Award in the beautiful home of real Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago. Congratulations, Jaguar. And so, yeah, that was an award that he presented to her. And I know a lot of people, they want to attack the messenger, okay?
Yes.
And I'm just going to tell you, General Flynn is still allowed to host things in Donald Trump's home, talks to him all the time, supposedly knows where the bodies are buried, and gives Jaguar Wright an
Props.
Amera
Right.
Future Award. Okay. So go figure, like use your common sense. So
And they're also saying that people in Hollywood and all over the world, they're afraid of Diddy because he is a violent man. So I think they're trying to establish character when they're
Mhm.
bringing in the Cassie case, because the Cassie case is not applicable to the charges for which he's currently charged.
Yeah, and I'm hoping, I mean, if they would have, if it weren't relative, they have to show before a trial that this is relative in some way. Otherwise, they're not allowed to just start talking about whatever they want. So they do have to show that it is
So they're
relative.
showing his violence. And then we also saw him on one of his shows where he came out and started smashing up his desk and screaming he was a savage, because he is. So
Well, in a lot
we're
of cases, this
establishing
type of
violence.
evidence is not allowed through either, like to establish character. I can think of a lot of cases where the character evidence like this has not have been allowed through, and it should have been allowed through because it really mattered in the end. So, I do think this is an absolute pick and choose, where the prosecutor is picking and choosing what they're allowing through or what they're presenting, or the judge. And a lot of people, I think, don't realize is pretty much the prosecution owns the courtroom. They own the judge already. So they've already, and call it collusion. I call it collusion because whenever they get together with a judge and they're pretty much running that courtroom, I think that is completely wrong, like absolutely wrong. I think that, on many cases that, prosecutors and judges should not really be trying cases on, at the same time, all the time together, because it's the defense that is often new. The defense attorney is often new. So you're basically, as the defense, you are walking into a courtroom that it's a working relationship, as if they are, they're both there to prosecute you in some way, shape, or form. So I think that's a really interesting
I
thing.
think they're trying to establish. Liz Crokin posted an article by Jelaine Turner Williams, and the title of that was Diddy allegedly made male escort urinate in Cassie's mouth. Prosecutors claim in court, and she was 19 years old. That says P. Diddy's trial opened today with depraved claims made against the disgraced rap mogul. A prosecutor claimed Diddy told male prostitutes to urinate in Cassie Ventura's mouth, which led her to feel like she was choking, and that her involvement in Diddy's freak-off parties often lead to violence. These kinds of incidences allegedly began when Cassie was only 19 years old. So, he preyed on a very young individual, and and it also ties to Lou Taylor, who I love Liz Crokin. She says, great question. Sounds like they need to watch Slave Princess, which is her video that she made about Lou Taylor. And she says, the surprise witness said, I wonder why nobody in Brentwood. TN's local news is reporting on Brentwood star Louise Mary Sawyer Taylor, or that would be Lou Taylor, in any of their Diddy coverage. So Liz says, TikTok Lucifer. I love her.
Interesting. Okay. So wasn't Lou Taylor, I think
Lou Taylor was affiliated with Diddy, but she's also the individual who's the guarantor or the guardian over Britney Spears. And the person that I read had been on our show before. She goes by That Surprise Witness.
Yeah, and I think he was also over NSYNC. No, I'm thinking of Lou Pearlman. I'm sorry.
No, it's Lou Taylor. They call her Lucifer.
Yeah, so Lou Pearlman, that is a great movie for people to watch to kind of get an idea over what I believe is not only Lou Taylor, but a lot of the Hollywood producers, whether they be music or otherwise.
So Liz said, breaking, Rodney Little Rod Jones comes out of hiding for Diddy trial. So as you know, he actually was suing him. Rodney Little Rod Jones is in line to attend Diddy's trial today, where opening statements are expected to believe after the final jurors are announced. Little Rod was one of the first to file a lawsuit against Diddy with explosive claims of sexual abuse and sex trafficking, where he cited several high-profile potential criminal accomplices in his complaint. Little Rod also claimed in his suit that Robin Greenhill of Lou Taylor's TriStar served as Diddy's accountant and oversaw payments to sex workers. Lou owns TriStar and manages Diddy, and she was also the architect of the illegal and corrupt conservatorship of Britney Spears, who was trafficked and stripped of all her basic human rights, among other horrific things. Also, Robin has been accused of illegal surveillance of Britney, along with Idan Yemeni's black box Israeli security firm. I exposed Lou in my Slave Princess documentary at Slave Princess, and you can watch it for free. And now would be a really good time to get caught up on Lucifer Taylor, as the world will no doubt be hearing way more about her evil ways soon. The music is about to stop, and shit is going to get real quick. Kaboom. Yep.
Well, I'll tell you, covering, like I said, one of the things, and Penny, I've got it up if you want to. I don't know if you're going to play any more of the TMZ, but
no, that's all right. We have about 5 more minutes.
Yeah. Okay. Let's show the audience this just so they understand which movie I'm referring.
Oh yes.
Okay.
Yes.
The Boy Band Con. I definitely, audience, please watch this movie. It will give you a ton of insights on what actually happens. I know Lance Bass, who is on the screen right now with NSYNC, and he is a really good guy. But anyway, watch this. That'll give you a lot of information on how it happens. And then you may also want to follow Law and Crime Sidebar, because they have someone in the courtroom. So that's very helpful too. They're kind of given play-by-plays in the courtroom. So that's a really important thing. And then also, I have found while we've even been on air, because many City of Miami residents, they're messaging me saying, no, Star Island's in Miami, Miami Beach. So there we have what Wikipedia says. So I'll go through that. But then, just look and see even what different news outlets are saying, because that will also give us like insights, really into everything. So like the Miami Herald says, different things, and kind of, associates different people in with like of who actually lives on Star Island. So I think that's a pretty interesting article. And then I can tell you that Miami Herald has told me, the Miami Herald journalists have told me that they've often tried to link their articles together, so that you can actually click through to go to their different articles. They're not allowed to do that. Those get struck down. So you really have to, we are forced to do our own research and actually talk about it. Because that's one of the things that they love that Banana Republic News actually does, is we link the articles together so that you can, when you want to know who we're talking about, you can actually see other articles written on that person. Whereas the Miami Herald, you have to search the site or search other outlets.
We have just a few more minutes, but I did want to let you know that I would love to do some more Hollywood Dark Journalists with you, Christi. David and I are going to be this next year moving into doing documentaries, and I'm not sure if I made you aware or not, but TJ Ward is now a member of Agent X11, and he is doing a show with Chris Montgomery. Chris Montgomery was in the White House at one point. He was an agent in Hollywood, but he met TJ through a murder of one of his clients, Casey McPherson. So TJ came on Agent X11 on one of our Friday shows, which we're going to be off starting this Friday until Memorial Day. So I won't be having any Agent X11s, and we won't have any Awake Nations. We're taking a vacation for Memorial Day. And when we come back, though, Christi, I would like to involve you in some of those if you want to come on one of the evening shows. And then TJ's also on Wednesdays, every other Wednesday, we're doing, we have a Patriots Perspective with Chris Montgomery. And then the following Wednesday, we have a true crime with TJ Ward. And then also another individual who's joined us, which we're so grateful for, is Dr. Abloh. And Dr. Abloh was a psychiatrist for almost, 30 years, 40 years. And he also has written crime novels as well from a psychiatric standpoint. So we're getting some wonderful people like yourself, Christi, who I've known for quite some time now. And I'd like to start working with you on some other projects, maybe on air and off air. I know you're very, very busy, but we'll work it out. We'll find a way to make it happen. Where can people find you?
You can find me at bananarepublicnews.com, patriotsperspective.com, Christi, 4 Miami.com. You can also find earrings like I have on today at christitasker.com. And then if you want to find my fun sites of my travels and, just fun lifestyle blog, recipes, everything, go to psthisrocks.com.
Well, you rock. PS This Rocks. And that's my initials.
That's right.
Joan Renee, where can people find you?
Well, before we go into that, I just wanted to say, Christi, that you brought in pieces of this trial or that haven't been publicized to the rest of the nation, because I'm on the West Coast, that put it in a totally different perspective to how broad and big this is. And it's going to be pretty hard for them to bury it in a domestic violence out of their jurisdiction trial, if that's where they're going with it, with so many of you guys out there bringing out the rest of it. Because, if it's coming out in public, it needs to come out in court too. So I just wanted to say that. And the other thing is you can find me here on Agent X11.
Every day, pretty much.
And I want to send this out there to the people who are listening, Joan, based on what you were saying, is oftentimes you do have to file a police report. Go to the Miami-Dade County Sheriff. We have a sheriff for the first time in 60 years to file those reports. So that's for all of Miami. Anything that you're listening to, just tell the sheriff's office, listen, I've already, tried to file a report with the city police. If you have, and whether they took it, they lost it, they didn't follow up on it. Listen, I just want to file another report with the sheriff's office, and I want a report number in hand.
Excellent. And Joan, again, where can people find you?
Okay. Of course, Agent X11 and Hollywood True Crime on Fridays as well. And Trauma Triage on the David Zublik channel on Mondays.
And on X,
Joan Renee 27. And
thank you all for joining us. My name is Penny Shepherd. You can find me on X at Shepherd Out. And also, please watch The Awake Nation. We are live on the David Zubik channel Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m., and that is Eastern Time. Unfortunately, we are out of time, so we are out of here. Shepherd out.
Renee out.
Tasker out.
Goodbye for today from Agent X11, Hollywood Dark Journalist. We post new episodes daily. Join us for 2 True Crime episodes on Fridays. Please join us for our main show, David Zubik's Awake Nation, on the David Zubik channel on Rumble. We are live Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. Eastern.